YouTube. Let me just make sure that's there. YouTube. Okay, great. Let me lower this. All right, here we go. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fierce Awakened Woman 2022 Creativity Jam. It's amazing. After months of planning, we are finally gathering, and I'm so excited to kick this weekend off. Thank you for being here from wherever you're calling in from. I know it's 11 o'clock here in Europe, so this will probably be more of a European and East facing, giving the time zone change. But for those of you joining here live, thank you for being here. And thank you to those who will be watching the replay later. We're gonna today open all of our space and really welcome in our creative expression and our creative muse. And today is Friday, and it's Venus's day. She's our feminine guardian of the sky, and we will tap into her energy a little bit as well as we rise up and look at the awakenings happening in our own life, looking at how we can become more creatively express, how we can use creativity and joy as a way of infusing our lives with something that feels a little bit more wonderful. We have a whole amazing weekend of things lined up, and I'll go through a little bit of the schedule at the end of the session, and we'll go through some of the housekeeping notes and making sure everything is sort of in order for this weekend, so you know how to access the information and get there. But let's just start, wherever you've been recently, like wherever the week has taken you. I know that there's news in the world that has me feeling also a little bit upset and anxious about what direction the world is moving in. But I am coming back to the principle of keep a joyful mind. And it's from this center place that I feel we can all come to a place and elevate. So taking a moment from your day, wherever you're at in the world, whatever's been going on before this moment, allowing all of your attention to roll back here. Whether you've been thinking about work or life or what you're making for dinner tonight or what happened yesterday, what's going to happen tomorrow, just really allow yourself to let go of that for a few minutes. The world will still keep moving after all of our session finishes, but for now, be grateful that you can be here. It takes effort to choose to be somewhere, especially with all the things going on in the world and all the opportunities. So thank you for being here. Thank yourself for being here. This is a radical act of self-love and self-care to allow yourself to open up to what's present. Taking a cycle of breath, just normal breathing. Breathing in, breathing out through your nose. There might be a sound. It's okay. You might do a ha at the end of your exhale if that feels good. And if the breath is something of a trigger for you and makes you uncomfortable, then focus on your thumb. Focus on your big toe. You want to take just a moment to bring our racing mind into a focus point where we can step into the world with a bit of a calm, abiding presence. And when we direct our breath or our focus to something like our big toe, we begin to slow down the thoughts that come. Get into a comfortable position today. I'm going to light incense to get us started. I already have my candle lit. Maybe you're also going to take just a moment to clear your space. Just kind of look around and begin to feel comfortable in the room that you're in or wherever you are. Maybe you're sitting outside, listen to this. So I'll use incense. I've already smudged my space to clear it of, my stagnant energy. And as I blow this out, I send to all of you too the beauty of this incense. This is an incense I found in a little shop in India a couple of years ago. And it's become my favorite. I don't even know the name of it. I don't even know what incense it is, but it smells fresh and flowery like the spring. And by connecting with ourselves with fire and air and earth and water, we have some water on the table over there as well. So connecting all the earth elements and really allowing ourselves to feel present. We are inviting in all the versions of who we are in this moment. We may feel joyful. We may feel angry. We may feel sad. We may feel happy. We may feel anxious or nervous. I feel a little nervous. I'm hoping all the technology goes beautifully this weekend. We may feel confused, or we may feel very assertive and confident and aligned. This weekend there's room for all of this here, and know that these feelings will rise and fall. There will be different experiences throughout the entire weekend, and just even throughout this session, where you'll notice that, where you'll notice your thoughts and your mind is doing one thing, your body's feeling something else, maybe your spirit wants to come through and tell you something else. Just allow it all in. It's all going to work out fine, and it's all welcome. We are creating a space where we can express ourselves with this idea of elevating each other. So if one moment I'm feeling a little scatterbrained or a little lost in my own what's going on, I'm going to look into the room here and feel the connection with you. And that will carry me forward. And I hope you can do the same. In whatever moment that you're feeling, use the virtual digital space. We've become experts at Zoom now, so use this virtual space to feel the connection globally with people who are on screen and people who are going to be watching this later. And now our Fierce Awakened Woman 2022 conference is officially open. And with that sense of meditative flow, I'd like to talk a little bit about why a creativity ritual or a creativity practice, a creativity routine matters. And before we talk about why it matters, I'll explain how I got to this moment and where I found myself really wondering what is a creativity routine and why do I even need one? I don't know where the starting point is for sure, but what I've noticed in these last 2 years, and I don't know if some of this will be pandemic induced, I don't know if it's because I walked across 2 continents from 2016 to 2019, starting with my love and my life partner in Bangkok, Thailand, and walked all the way back to Barcelona, Catalonia, here in Europe. I don't know where some of this all came from, but what is clear is that I'm in a point of absolute reinvention. The life that I had before 2016 was already my career. My 30-year career in journalism and freelance writing was coming already to a natural sort of close. I was feeling that I had lived that experience fully. I was very successful in my own version of success with that. And choosing to go out in the world and walk, sometimes in very painful moments and through very difficult experiences and through a lot of different weather, and to interact with cultures and people from all sorts of different backgrounds and languages and cultural awareness really sparked something else. So when I came back in 2019, I was already feeling that as I was getting closer to 50, I turned 50 this year, that something else was coming for me, that I had lived life based on a lot of my own early life expectations, based on my own family's expectations. And I reached this point where I thought, like, really, is this all there is? Like, what is my next thing? I had just finished this big walk, huge accomplishment, huge personal sense of satisfaction, and never experienced anything like that, and probably will never experience anything like that. What is the ripple effect of that in my own life? And I began to think about, I heard something from Jane International, who does tarot readings every month. And she said something about planning like a 30-year cycle, a 30-year journey. And I thought, right, what if I started to create a lifestyle that's based on a 30-year joy journey? What would that look like? Since my journey up to my 50s was something completely different. It was very productivity-based, very measuring my worth about what I could produce daily and weekly for other people, mostly. What if I turned that inwards and started to allow my joyful mind in this essence of joy, in this quality of joy that I can cultivate, into something that looks like a life path for me going forward? Again, the pandemic really helped shine a light here. It gave me the opportunity to reinvest in myself and do digital workshops with mentors around the world who significantly influenced and changed my direction and course and view of the world and my own capabilities of showing up. I invested some time and money and resources to learn how to facilitate mindfulness meditation. I've also become a Femme attuned movement guide. I'm now mentoring people who are aspiring authors, writing their book, writing my own book. And as I began to show up and practice the idea of meditating and learning how to recognize patterns of my own mind, I thought, oh, okay, this is good. I've been meditating for a long time, but showing up then as a person who is showing others how to meditate gave me a lot of information. And I thought, wow, if I'm learning the language of my mind again, and I'm constantly learning how my thoughts are useful, some thoughts are super useful, and our mind wants to always keep generating that. But there are many of my thoughts that I noticed that are just completely useless. They behave in really aggravating ways to me now. This story that I tell myself, being a victim, living in scarcity, poverty, all like, I don't have that experience. That's not really my lived experience, but I have these thoughts that are constantly beating me down, and putting me in a space of being small. So starting to recognize the patterns of my thoughts and realizing, oh, this is not really what I want my 30-year journey to look like, hoping that I can reach 80 or, something in the future. Hopefully there's a 30-year path here. Or not, like whenever it's time to go, and that's, life well lived. But is this what I want to carry with me? No, I want to have a joyful mind. This is like a Buddhist mantra a little bit that I started to really reflect on. Always have a joyful mind. And I'm like, what does that even mean? I don't know what that means. So as I started to contemplate that, I began to be more embodied and taking more embodiment workshops, learning how to facilitate movement. We'll have some movement classes during this whole week later today. In fact, I'll be facilitating a movement practice with live drums. It'll be a very interesting experience to connect live music with the movement through Zoom. But as I started to understand my body in a new way, I also began to, in the Femme body of work, works with emotional release and emotional healing. And I found myself really wondering how my emotions behave. If I start gathering up my thoughts around how my thoughts behave, how do my emotions behave? Oh, okay, this is anger. Like, let me be with my anger for a few minutes. Oh, this is sadness. Let me be with the sadness and the grief of something lost, someone lost, someone who passed away. Let me be with that. And I never learned how to do that before. I never understood how my emotional state of being affects my overall state of being. So the embodiment work gave me a tool and a practice so that I could say, oh yeah, I'm feeling anger. Let me just move through anger and then shake it out. It gave me tools to work with my own emotions in the same way that meditation gave me tools to work with my mind. And sometime last year, I don't know quite when it was, and it may have been earlier than that, it may have been in 2020 when we were all in confinement, it started to come through, is that I really started to contemplate the idea of what did I like to do as a child. Everybody talks about this stuff in self-development and personal growth. Looking back to your childhood and figuring out what you like to do as a starting point for the pivot and the reinventions that you're taking on now in life. I used to do a lot of things that I loved to do as a kid. I don't remember them all, but what I really always loved was coloring and doodling, and just in classrooms and in conferences, I would just sit there and just doodle in my notebook, and somehow between seeing somebody on stage or seeing the teacher talk, listening to what they were saying, and writing, not just notes, but like doodling, helped reinforce my own learning. And I found myself often in 2022 and 2020, 2021, doodling, coloring, playing with clay and silly putty and Play-Doh and like that kind of stuff, getting my hands really into it. And at some moment I realized, oh, this is my spirit talking to me. This is something is coming through here. Even if it's impermanent beauty and impermanent art, there is a spark of joy here that makes my higher self feel super connected to my human self. And I started to think about that. Like, wow, okay, yeah, we have meditation as the language of our mind, or a tool to understand the language of our mind. We have embodiment practices to understand our language of our body. We know that the language of our heart comes through in ways of expression that might look like gratitude and kindness, compassion, generosity, sadness, love, right? This is another expression of ourselves that we have a way of communicating through our heart center and our heart space. But how does our spirit talk to us? And I started to really think about this. How has my higher self, or my own divinity, my source of life, my whatever your words are here, substitute them as you need to. I'll call it my spirit, because that's how I feel it. So how does my spirit talk to me? And I noticed that I had two ways of how my spirit talked to me. The first way is that it comes often to me as a whisper in the wind. Very, very clear messages. When I was going through my divorce many years ago, I had a very breakdown moment that said, don't worry, quit your job, go travel. 6 months later, I was solo backpacking in Europe as a way to heal my feeling of being broken. And it's on that trip that I met Luis, my current life partner, and the guy that I walked across the world with. We've been together for 16 years. But that all started with a very clear message of quit your job and go to Europe. Go travel. A few years later, the message after that traveling experience, the message was, don't ever ask for permission to travel the world in the way you want to travel. And that's when I began my freelance business. I never wanted to ask for permission to go on vacation, to travel the way that I wanted to travel for weeks or months at a time. And that started a whole new cycle for me. One afternoon in June of, I think it's 2013, some message came to me. Go for a long, long walk before you're old and broken. So we did. We walked. It was a yes right from the beginning. I don't know what those impulses are. I don't know exactly if that is something creative. I don't know if that's unique to me. But it's my way. It's my way of understanding what's going on with my purpose and my meaning. What is the second way that I feel my spirit wanting to translate a message? And for me, that is when my hands are into something. It's when my hands get into something. Like when I don't know, it's just even making a simple altar over here, or pulling out finger paint and spreading it on a page, writing love notes to myself. I feel a very kinetic feeling in my creativity. And those two things combined made me really think, wow, why don't I honor this a little bit more? Why don't I honor this? We honor our meditation practice. We come to the cushion. Maybe we light candles and incense. We create an environment for stillness and being present with our mind. We create an embodiment experience where we are like hugging and embracing our own bodies and being comfortable and confident in our bodies. We take time to notice. We do loving kindness meditations. We send compassion out into the world. We volunteer and are in service to others. There's a ritual and a practice and routine around that. And in the giving that we also receive. We know this. We understand this. But how do we make a ritual and a routine and a practice of creativity? And that's what I'm hoping over the course of this weekend that we'll explore in a lot of different ways. We'll have, coming up, we'll have a conversation with Natalie Nixon, who talks about amplifying wonder and rigor, how you need both the quality of wonder and the quality of rigor, the quality of diligence and effort to create something, to innovate on something. We have later on Olivia Kolbach, who's going to play the piano and show us how to get into flow with music. We have, over the course of the weekend, later on, we'll have Melissa Mitchell will be guiding a crafting session. Peggy Moore is going to be calling in the directions and helping us weave joy and love and laughter through our life journey and the spirit wheel, a ritual totally in itself. And of course, I'm going to do my movement experience with live drums. I'll tell you something, this is the first time I'm working with a live drummer. I'm nervous, but I'm also wanting to feel how that feels creatively for me to work live with a musician in a Zoom room, with people watching. This is sort of something new and interesting for me, a space to be in. So just thinking for a moment, how do you honor your creativity? We are creative beings. We are born this way. We're born to be creative. Do you have a practice or a way of settling in to your creative self? Do you give yourself a little bit of space to come into some sort of creative flow? Or do you just dive in and not even realize what you're creating? And that's my offer for you. That's my question, invitation for you. Can you begin to bring awareness to your own creative expression? Can you notice the small joys in your life that fill you with wonder and awe? Can you define the next step in creating either something lasting and permanent, like a permanent, beautiful creation, in whatever way that means for you? Because it certainly doesn't mean we're all going to become Michelangelo or Mary Oliver and read poetry and I don't know, become U2 and sing on stage and offer all of this creativity to the world. It doesn't mean any of that. But can you satisfy yourself with creating something impermanent? Like going for a little walk and creating a little altar made of the leaves and sticks that you find just on the ground, and giving back to the earth a moment of beauty. Or for somebody else who might pass on that and look at it and go, wow, that's beautiful. Are you willing to do that? And then what happens when we do? What happens when you let that essence of joy lead creativity? How does your life begin to look like in a joy journey, where creativity and joy overlap and become some of the navigation points? How do you come back to a joyful mind? How does gratitude feed joy, feed creativity? Creativity, of course, may be something that comes out of anger, sadness, and grief. And there's room for that too, of course, naturally. But figuring out how to create a daily practice, a weekly practice, is something that I've been spending a lot of time with. It doesn't take very long. I mean, you could carve out 2 minutes. You could carve out 2 minutes right now while I'm speaking to you to just get your hands into something. Hopefully you have your creativity basket sitting around. You got some paper, markers, or crayons. You might be doodling while you're listening here. That's awesome. I think that's great. You might have some clay or silly putty. I have that, I don't know what that is. This nice smelling putty that all the kids have now. I don't even know what it's called. But I find my hands getting into it, and I find like sometimes I'm really stressful and really stressed, and I just squeeze the crap out of it, really. And then other times I'm like, oh, let me move it into an invented shape. Let me just move it in this direction. So that could take just 2 minutes, right? You could do anything for 2 minutes. And that's where I started. I just started to give myself these 2-minute increments. And then eventually it moved up to like a 20-minute practice. So in the morning, the way that I typically do it is I have breakfast and I have my coffee, because I need coffee. I don't always need coffee, but I love the smell of coffee. So coffee's always a part of my creative practice. But then I'll usually come into this space right here this is my very beautiful space in this apartment that I live in now. And I will usually move. I'll put on some song that feels good for a few minutes. And then I will either pull an oracle card, a tarot card, a spirit animal guide, or I'll just go straight into meditation for a few minutes. And then I also keep it's not there right now because I moved it, but I always keep a little box filled with paper and markers and, I don't know, just things that I like to create with. Scissors, glue, I always keep them there. And then I just spend like 10 or 15 minutes doing something. And I don't even attach any expectation to it. I don't do it with an intention that it's going to be lasting. I do it as a way to say, okay, I've got my mind into gear today. I've got my heart into gear today. I've got my body into gear today. And now I will do joyful work and my spirit will speak to me. I've got to say, this week has been really difficult for me to tap into that. There have been so many things related to the conference that needed to be done, making sure the speakers have this and the promotional material and getting the word out and posting on social media. And I have some help, and I have a team of people who are helping me in certain aspects. But there are a million things to do to bring this summit alive. And in these most moments of like, oh my God, I'm running at 100 miles an hour, and this is still not done, I really I keep right here, do joyful work, feel good. And I just pull myself back into the space. I've been making sigils. I'll show you. Sigils are my new way of doodling. You take written intentions and then it is actually this way, and you convert them into symbols. This is the symbol for the Fierce Awakened Woman Creativity Jam this year. And it means something to me. It may or may not mean anything to you, but it was a 10-minute creativity project. And it just sets me all up for everything that's sort of happening. So that's what I'm going to offer and ask you to be open to. Just notice the glimmers, notice the small joy, notice how your joy is connected to creativity, notice how your emotions are connected to creativity. Notice the quality of how your thoughts and emotions are behaving when you're in creative flow. And what can you do to shift out of that? What can you do to create a small practice and give it a ritual? Like, make it a ritual. Rituals make whatever you're doing feel a little bit more special. They don't have to have religious connotation at all. It could just simply be, okay, and right now I'm going to be creative. Right? You could just, this is the thing, you say something to yourself right before you do it. Make it feel special to you. Make yourself feel special and honor yourself as you move through this weekend, as you set up your own 30-year view. May we all have, a 30-year view, even as we live in the present moment. And that's it. I'm going to stop talking here about that. And that's why creativity, well, I'll leave it with that question. Why does a creativity ritual, routine, or practice matter? Just asking yourself that question and seeing what comes out, what bubbles up for you now, tomorrow, next week. Just let that question rest for you. Why does a creativity practice matter, and why does it matter to me? And notice if you notice a shift. So on that note, I'm going to end this part of the talk. And I'm just going to shift a little bit of gears and conclude with just some housekeeping notes. Again, if you're here because of the Fierce Awakened Woman Conference, you hopefully have received some of the emails I've been sending. They're not spam. Like, I'm really trying to be very thoughtful in how I send the emails, but it is to keep everybody informed about what's going on at the different days, events. And just check your updates folder, your promotions folder, or your spam folder. It doesn't always pop into your inbox, so just ensure that you're seeing that. The email will come from Jenn at alwaysonmyway.com, so please add me to your approved sender list so that you can get those daily emails. There will be daily emails. The Fridays already went out. You'll get one for the next few days, and then a couple next week as sort of a closing the container as we carry on closer to the second eclipse. Some of the timing of this is very, very deliberate. We're in between the two eclipses from April 30th and May 16th. So there's a lot of powerful energy environmentally in our space right now that we can tap into. I am very much working with the archetypes, the planetary archetypes of Venus and Jupiter right now, so that Venus is this divine feminine sense of being home with yourself right now, that it's in Taurus, and Jupiter has this sense of expansion. So if that feels like something that resonates with you, use those types of archetypes. And again, check your event schedule page. All of the information that you need about the entire weekend, the schedule, access to the speakers' pages, access to the speaker replays, the links to come here, and the free gifts that the speakers are offering so generously are also in that event schedule page. Let me just grab that for you. So I'm pretty sure you have it handy, but you can just take it out of the chat here. And this is just your central hub for everything going on this weekend. And again, we are creating a safe container. And we always have to say this in the world that we live in today. And what I mean by safe here is that we are bringing all the versions of ourselves, but also striving to work in community so that we are elevating ourselves. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. So if you're having a bad moment, that's okay. You know, allow yourself to be comforted by this web of creative joy that we are tapping into. And at different moments, there will be an ebb and flow. You might feel tired, you might feel energized. Everybody in this space is going to feel a little bit differently. But let's just come with that integrity. You know, we don't know where what's happening in any moment given, in any given life, anywhere in the world. So come with the idea that you are light and love and laughter and joy. This is your essence, and together we can help each other rise up. I think that's it for housekeeping notes. Oh, just remember to, for some sessions you'll need to have a yoga mat. For some sessions you'll need to have some of the creativity objects nearby: glue, scissors, paper, markers, crayons, paint, anything that feels good for you, anything that you have on hand. If you are joining the live, it will not be recorded. If you are joining the rose ceremony tomorrow, it will be at 6 o'clock tomorrow, Saturday, Europe time. Please give yourself the joy of bringing a rose. You can buy one at a florist, or maybe you have a garden full of flowers and roses. If you don't have a rose, you can use another flower. A fresh flower is better. We're trying to tap into the vibration of the rose. But you can use anything. Don't be worried about this. If you have paper, you can make a paper flower. There are some YouTube videos that help you do that. You could just rip strips of paper. You could use string. You could use cotton balls. Whatever you have handy that has a soft effect. Just allow yourself to be there for that. It is a very, very special ceremony. So if you come, it could be a very powerful experience, and I definitely invite you to come to that. I invite you to come to as many sessions as you like during the weekend. And if you do choose to come, try to stay for the entirety of the session. It just holds the space for the speaker in a loving way. And try to show up a few minutes early so that we can let you into the Zoom room. I will later on have somebody, Nikki Smith, will be helping coordinate some of the flow in the Zoom room, and so there'll be a little bit of back and forth with us. And as each speaker comes in, we have Olivia Kolbach coming up in a few minutes. As each speaker comes in, we'll have a few minutes just to check mics and sound. So just bear with us. It's kind of like the live festival effect there. And I'm going to turn off the YouTube.